Hey guys, it's Phil Morrison. Today I'm going to share with you the key insights from the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. The reason that I'm going to share the main points from this book is because it's been out there for decades, stood the test of time, and it's still considered to be the definitive guide to improving relationships with the opposite sex. So nothing's come along since that has replaced it. And it's not just theoretical advice, it's highly practical and applicable. It's stuff that you can apply right away. As soon as you know the information, you can apply it to actually improve your relationships with the opposite sex. So John Gray himself is an expert. He's a psychologist, a relationship counselor, and when he makes generalizations about about men and women, it's evidence based. So when he talks about typical behaviors of men and women, it's from surveys of over 25,000 people, which have attended his relationship seminars. So it's evidence based stuff that he's bringing to the table. And the aim of the book is to melt down walls of resentment and bitterness and mistrust that can arise between the opposite sexes simply due to miscommunication. So the book attempts to clearly define the main differences between men and women to reduce this unnecessary conflict and tension and allow you to fully trust and love the opposite sex. So that's why I'm talking about this book today. I also have personal and business interests that relate to this because I coach guys one-on-one with anxiety and I teach them how to build confidence, especially confidence with women. So the guys that I'm coaching have no problem finding girls that like them and going on dates. So inevitably they're going to end up in relationships. And it's important to stop potential problems down the line by understanding things really, really clearly. And I've not met a single person who does not want to improve their relationships with the opposite sex. So it's really beneficial for everyone. I thought I'd start with an anecdote from John Gray. So John married his wife Bonnie, and they had a baby, Lauren. And this is almost a week after Lauren was born. So his wife Bonnie was badly torn during the delivery, and she was on painkillers, and also she could barely walk. So she was in quite a bad way. And after 5 days of staying at home and helping Bonnie and looking after the newborn, John decided to go back to work. So he was out on his first day back at work, and his wife had run out of painkillers. She knew that his brother was visiting this particular day. So when his brother came round, she said, "Hey, I've run out of painkillers. When you're out, would you mind picking some up and then dropping them back off here?" And his brother agreed to this, but forgot to pick up the painkillers. So consequently, Bonnie spent the whole day in pain looking after the baby Lauren. So John, he came back home with no idea that Bonnie had had such a tough day. And when he walked through the door, this is what she said. "I've been in pain all day. I ran out of pills. I've been stranded in bed, and nobody cares." Now John got really defensive now. He said, "Why didn't you call me?" And she said, "I asked your brother, but he forgot. I've been waiting for him to return all day. What am I supposed to do? I can barely walk. I feel so deserted." At this point, John almost lost it. He was furious. He was thinking, why didn't she call me? And he felt that she was blaming him. So he headed for the door, And then she said something that changed his life. She said, "Stop. Please don't leave me. This is when I need you the most. I'm in pain. I haven't slept for days. Please listen to me." She then instructed John to come over, put his arms around her and comfort her, which he did. And he was amazed that he could offer her support in this way. Until this point, he had absolutely no idea that he could support her just by going over, listening, and giving her a hug. And this particular anecdote will make more sense later on. If you're a guy and you're taking the John's side at this particular stage, that's understandable, but I'm sure when you've watched the rest of this video, you'll see both perspectives more clearly. So I'm now going to cover the major analogy that John talks about in this book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay, so this is Venus, where the Venusians are from, the women, and this is of course Earth, and then you have Mars, which is where the Martians are from, which represent men. Now the Martians have built a Martian society, and because their primary sources of fulfillment is achieving goals, okay? So they're motivated by having an idea in their head and turning it into reality. So goals and success. Mars is very, very efficient as a society. There's all these really, really effective highways that have been built, tall buildings, and the men take pride in being powerful, competent, skillful, and being able to handle their problems on their own. So for men, the ultimate honour is to be trusted to achieve their own goals, solve their own problems without the need to be helped. And it's actually a sign of weakness for a man to ask for help regarding a problem which he can solve himself. If there's a problem which a guy is struggling with, then it's a sign of wisdom to actually ask for help. And in that particular instance, so he would ask someone who he really trusts and respects for advice. And that person would be absolutely honoured because they're being treated as an expert in this particular context. So that person would put on their expert hat, their Mr. Fix-It hat, and they'd offer their best advice to help the Martian in need solve their particular problem. So they'd really provide some gems of advice based on experience. So this is really how the Martian society operates, and it's very, very, very different from the Venusian society. So the value system is different on Venus. So it's not so much goal and competency oriented. It's instead relationship oriented. So it's based on relationships, and the women, they get their main source of fulfillment from having quality relationships in their lives. And they like to talk about and express their feelings. Their feelings, they like to be heard, listened to, and understood. That makes them feel a lot better. And on Venus, it's not considered a weakness to ask for help because they're not too worried about competency and power. So that's totally fine on Venus. And on Venus as well, it's actually polite to offer support and help to another Venusian without even being asked to do it. So whether you offer advice or constructive criticism, that is viewed as a sign of caring and a sign of love when Venusians do this. So the story goes that, I'll just zoom out for a second. The story goes that the Martians, they built telescopes and they looked across the night sky and they spotted these majestic, beautiful creatures that they immediately fell in love with, the Venusians. They saw their society, which was beautiful. It was filled with parks, open spaces, restaurants, shopping malls, and they immediately wanted to go over there to express their competence, their power, and their skills, and look after the Venusians. So they invented space travel. This is meant to be a rocket here, and they flew over to Venus to meet the Venusians. The Venusians, they welcomed the Martians with open arms. They were so happy to have these strong creatures come over there that wanted to help them and support them. And the Martians were really, really happy as well. The difference is in behaviour, in the way they think, the way they feel, the way they perceive the world and respond to situations was seen as quirks, and it actually drew them closer together. So they got on like a house on fire. And they decided that they would move to Earth. So they moved to Earth, and initially everything was all rosy. But then a blackout happened. And they both suffered from selective amnesia, which means that the Martians forgot that the Venusians were from a different planet. And the Venusians forgot that the Martians were from Mars. So the men expected the women to think and feel and perceive and respond in the way that they would do. Then the women expected the opposite from the men. They expected the men to behave, respond and feel and think and go about life in the same way that they do. And this is where resentment built up and conflict started to occur, because they forgot that men and women are actually different creatures. So, the most common complaint that women give in relationships is that men don't listen. And the most common complaint that men have about women is that in relationships is that women try to change them. So, women like to talk about their feelings. They like to express how they feel, and men often don't listen. So maybe a wife could be talking about her bad day at work, and the husband could be watching sport on TV and completely ignoring her. That would obviously make the woman feel really like she's not being cared for or respected. She would not like that at all. But there's also times where men try to listen, but they actually misinterpret the situation, and it can lead to conflicts. So imagine a scene where a woman, she's come home from a day at work, and she says, I'm really, really upset. I've had such a bad day at work today. What she's looking for is support. She wants someone to listen with empathy and really try to understand how she's feeling. This is what another Venusian would automatically do. But men, they like to offer advice when someone else talks about a problem. They put on their Mr. Fix-It hat and view it as an opportunity to offer their value and their expertise. So when a woman says, I've had such a bad day at work and I've not enjoyed it at all, a man might say, why don't you just quit your job? You've never liked it there. There's a great role that is available down the road that you could apply to. And what this means is that the man is basically invalidating her feelings and not giving her the space to be understood. Of course, the guy has good intentions. He's trying to provide solutions to a problem. He's trying to turn her negative feelings into positive ones. But when women are upset, they just want to be heard. And the biggest complaint that men have is when women basically offer unsolicited advice and criticism. And this is because men like to be trusted to solve problems by themselves. They like to be accepted as they are. So I'll give you an example from the book, which really illustrates what I mean by this. So, Tom and Mary are a married couple, and Tom's driving Mary to a party. He gets lost, and he circles around the same block a couple of times, and Mary can tell that he's lost. And Mary says, Tom, why don't we just stop the car and call for help? Then we'll get to the party. I'm sure you can imagine that this does not go down very, very well with Tom, because you see, Mary, she's trying to offer help and support without being asked, which is completely natural and Venus. That's what one woman would do to another. But what a man hears is that you're not. I don't think you're competent. I don't trust you to be able to solve this problem by yourself. So he views it as an ultimate insult. So I'm now going to talk about a few examples of things that men say which can invalidate a woman's feelings. And I'll then provide you with some quotes of things that women might say which count as unsolicited advice and actually offend men. So a guy might say something like, it's not such a big deal. If you're going to complain about doing it, then don't do it. Why do you let people treat you that way? Forget them. So each of those quotes really offends women because they feel that they're not being heard, they're not being listened to. The men are just trying to solve problems, but they want to be heard instead. And now I'll provide you with a few examples of things that women say which count as unsolicited advice. You should spend more time with the kids. They miss you. So you can see how that would really annoy a man. There's a parking spot over there. Turn the car around. So guys feel that they're being controlled when women try to step in and give them advice when they're trying to do something on their own. The other example here is, you forgot to bring it home again. Maybe you could put it in a special place where you can remember it. So I'm sure you can appreciate how that would make a man feel incompetent and invalidated